So everyone, I want to thank you guys for being here today. Today's presentation is called The Secret Sauce of Teaching, Stirring Up Success One Creative Connection at a Time. Today we're going to explore a powerful role that fine arts plays in enriching our K-5 students' educational experience. Figuring out how we can get it all into the mix. Hi, I'm Rebecca. My name is Rebecca Pillars. I'm a graduate student for the University of North Texas. Although this is a part of my coursework to provide a presentation, this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. So the fine arts is something that's played a pivotal role in my life, educationally, professionally, and personally. And so I'm really excited to share with you guys why I think that this is a key ingredient to student success. We got the talent, we got the drive, we got the heart, but what's missing, right? Now, I want you guys to picture yourself. You're sitting in front of a great meal, right? Everything is seasoned perfectly. It's exciting, it's satiating, it's satisfying, and then you take a bite. And all of a sudden you notice something doesn't taste quite right. There's just a key ingredient missing. What happens when kids don't get consistent art education? This presentation is about recognizing this key ingredient that we're missing. Fine arts is not just an icing on the cake. It is a mandatory part of the TEC's curriculum. It's for every student in every elementary grade. Now, TEC's required ingredients, it teaches the foundations, it teaches creative expression, it teaches historical and cultural relevance, and it also teaches critical evaluation and response. These requirements are outlined in the Texas Administrative Code in chapters 117, subchapter A. You're going to see it 117.101-117.119. I know, because y'all wanted to memorize those numbers. However, they're real, and each section specifies the standards for a particular grade and subject, and it ensures this comprehensive fine arts throughout the elementary school years. Now, by integrating these strands, the TEC's aims not only to cultivate artistic skills, but critical thinking skills, cultural awareness, as well as personal expression in students. Some of those key benefits you're going to find are public speaking skills, memory, right? Fine motor skills. It's going to help with attention span, higher order thinking. It's going to help with regulating emotions and better outcomes in core subjects, visual literacy, and social emotional learning development. Now, why could the arts possibly be the secret ingredient, right? Because drama is something we have to deal with every day in our life. No, that's not it. That's not the reason why. It could be because students involved in the arts are 4 times more likely to have academic achievement. Or how arts integrated learning increases reading comprehension by 20 to 25% over time. Or maybe it's just because access to the arts correlates with improved behavior and attendance in elementary school. What's the current reality that's going on right now? Now, across our elementary campuses, we've been doing what we always do, where we're having to find creative ways to make things work with what we have. Teachers, admin, and staff, we stretch ourselves thin using time and ingenuity, pouring ourselves into our students. But even with the best efforts, the absence of a formal fine arts curriculum does create its challenges. And without dedicated fine arts teachers or consistent instructional time, access looks different from campus to campus here, and we remain out of alignment with TEC's requirements. This, guys, this is about an opportunity. This is about acknowledging the gap we have so we can move forward, so we can see that path, right? Now, I don't know about you guys, right? But I like to borrow recipes. I like to borrow recipes from friends, family, and especially the internet. And what better to borrow recipes from neighboring school districts? We're not the only one who's trying to juggle budget or space or time while meeting our students' needs. And what is really encouraging is that we do have several nearby districts who have similar resources or demographics that we can pull from, so that way we're not reinventing the wheel. We have Farmersville ISD. Farmersville ISD, art begins in 2nd grade, and they have the artist study curriculum. It makes sense to an extent why they would start in second grade, because kinder and first grade, a lot of the work that they do can be applied to the TEC's curriculum. We're talking basic textures, structures, cutting, coloring, things like that. I think the only thing we might be missing in our personal curriculum would be having artist biographies as part of our social studies element. This could even go down to somebody who's developed science, right? Because that is a form of its own art in its own way. They also do summer camps, 3rd through 5th grade as well. Melissa ISD has a full-time elementary fine arts staff, and they have found a way to integrate that into literacy and SEL. We have Cleveland ISD. Now, however, art begins in pre-K, but the way that they do that is by having just a couple of teachers bounce around from campus to campus. And then lastly, Roy City ISD. Now guys, let's whip up some creativity in our own kitchen, okay? There are things that we can do right now. Virtual field trips. We can visit the Louvre. We can visit the Met, local Texas art museums. We have theaters that have virtual theater performances. And then if we were to ask via school supplies for reflection journals, or in those later grades doing mini projects that tie into TECs, then we could have this work out. We also have vertical curriculum alignment, where we can integrate this in our reading when we are doing biographies, or for science when we're doing color theory and texture, or when we're doing our social emotional learning and we're doing emotional expression. When you're doing theater and you're looking at yourself in a mirror going, ha ha ha, you're getting to know yourself. What does it feel like when I feel that way? And lastly, this PLC collab, right? When we have these shared recipes, once you plan, share it across the teams during core content lesson planning. And that way we can use common rubrics, we can use project samples, and once again, those art journals. So these are kind of the phases I have. As you can see, phase 2 is a little smaller than phase 1, and that's because I don't know the future. Okay. Ideally, we have our own teachers for each campus. We have a teacher that goes across campuses. We have portables, or a shared space of some sort. But this would be later down the line. Of course, we have to start at the beginning. We have to start in our own kitchen with a curriculum and a committee rollout. One of our steps would be to create an art committee, and we would actually provide a small stipend, selecting 3 to 5 staff across K through 5, and this could be any staff member who's willing to volunteer. And by doing that, it builds that internal buy-in, and that way we can see the leadership and the responsibility roles by those who are willing to be a part of that committee. We can also develop TECS-aligned lessons. Now, the committee curates and articulates vertically, right? So it's going to align these projects, and we're going to ensure that compliance and that consistency across all grade levels, because essentially, the fine arts curriculum is exactly just like what we're doing. It's a vertical alignment curriculum. Because we're starting out, we would launch pilot projects. So we would only do 1 to 2 projects per 9 weeks, and we would use shared supplies and planning time. And then this allows us to test those realistic models, and we can tweak before scaling up. And of course, naturally, we've got to get the feedback. I'm all for a survey, okay, guys? Collecting that feedback, using those student reflections, teacher input, and simple rubrics to assess. And that way, it can better inform us for phase 2. Right? Okay, so naturally, whenever we've got a project like this, we have to figure out how we're gonna do it, where's that money gonna come from? And so, of course, naturally, when we're sourcing our ingredients, I wanna start with where we can find our money before I show you what we're gonna spend. Okay, so the Department of Education does offer Title I funds. We know this. We are a Title I school, and so it does provide funds for art-based learning for academic support. The ESSER/ESSA, those are TEA funds that are recovered for SEL needs, right? I think we could admit to the fact that our school could use some SEL, right? Some SEL work for sure. Local partnerships, volunteers, community parent involvement, and local businesses. This is something that's a campus goal all the way to a district goal. We have more students than ever, which means we have more parents and community than ever. Something like this could allow for those donations, donation of time. I mean, who doesn't have a spare scarf that they're never gonna wear again, right? For theater props and such. I know it's not as simple as that. However, there are plenty of parents who have all kinds of crafts just sitting in their closet going, yeah, one day I'm gonna get to it. The school needs them, get it out of my house, right? And then we've got local businesses. Who knows what they're willing to give, right? All it takes is asking. The worst they can say is no. And then last but not least, donors and grants. I put HEB here because HEB does have grants and funds for schools, Texas Cultural Trust, as well as arts and education grants. They're all over the place. It just takes that one person who's willing to take the time. And then here we go. We got the cost. We have the estimated costs. Now, this is based off of a student count of 700. Okay, so it is based off of 700. Our school is at max 730. Whether or not it goes above that, I guess we'll find out one day. But as it stands, this is an estimated cost for 700 students. Art supplies shows about $7,200. Okay, now that sounds like a lot, but we're talking colored pencils. We're talking pencils. We're talking markers and crayons and glue sticks and scissors. All of this stuff is put into our school supplies. If we were to add a drawing journal, construction paper, there are some parents who are willing to shell out more, and there are some who go, I'm not doing that. So finding the balance in that. When you take the school supplies cost out of it, this goes all the way down to $4,200. Those school supplies cost approximately $3,000 for those 700 students in bulk buy. Now, for stipends and curriculum resources, I did put a handout on the table, and it does give a further breakdown of the cost analysis as well. It includes the stipends. This would be approximately $500 per person. This is the assumption that only 3 people joined. Okay, so it's not a lot, but it's a start. And then, so that would obviously be $1,500. And then the additional $300 would be to be getting those curriculum resources, the professional development, the art lessons, the art teacher to art teacher, as well as in that handout, you'll see that there are examples of where we could go. Teachers Pay Teachers, which I know is an invaluable resource for our staff here, does provide a kindergarten through 3rd grade art curriculum. They're $80 a piece, or you can get the K through 2nd at $210. With an additional $80, then you've got all of them. However, she's a teacher who's taught for 15 years, specifically in art in elementary schools, and she states that you can easily transfer any of those lessons up to the higher grades. Vertical alignment, check. And then last but not least, we do have enrichment add-ons. There is a contingency, but more ideally, let's get $1,000 extra bucks, right? So, and that does bring us down to a total of approximately $10,000. Once again, those school supplies are in. Once you cut that, you're looking at 7. I don't know what we're serving our students by doing this. Right? Increased student joy, satisfaction, attendance, the morale of the students, wanting to come to school, wanting for it to be a little on the funner side. It's hard to get packet day in and day out, right? It's hard to get paper day in and day out. This allows for that creative expression. Are supported, okay? It's not fair necessarily that we have to ask teachers to be the art teachers if you've never been trained in art. However, if we are allowed to provide the resources to teach, this is the basic kit that we're going to be doing today. If you know, let me show you how to do it so that way it's feasible for you. And then provide those resources. That way they're not so stretched thin. Weekly fine arts time. If we had an ability to do that. Weekly fine arts. The craft we are about to do, guys, 15 minutes. It's 15 minutes. It's not a lot of time, but it's some time. Compliance with TECs. That's the biggest one. We have to have a curriculum. We have to have rubrics. It is a law. And without it, we are out of compliance. Art and theater is integrated with reading, writing, science, math, and SEL. Once again, it just finding those little diamonds. Everything I've shared today comes from a place of hope, and it comes from a place of respect. I know we're all working hard, and we're pouring out every bit of ourselves and our students every single day. This is our moment to stir something new into the mix. We don't need to wait for a perfect time or a perfect plan. We can start small, we can start smart, and we can start it together. We're gonna cook up something meaningful, a fine arts experience that not only meets the law, but feeds our students' hearts, minds, and creativity. I'm not asking for everything overnight. I'm definitely not asking for perfection, but I am asking, can we start the conversation? Can we say yes to the possibility? Because the truth is, the secret sauce we've been talking about, it already exists. We just need to stir it. And we do have an activity set in front of us. So, if you guys would please humor me. As most of you guys know, we have been working on the life cycle of a plant in science. And so in your bags, you will find felt pieces. Some of them have the pattern drawn all the way on it. Some of them just have, it's about halfway or third way, in which case you'll follow suit. Okay? So, and I found that when you're cutting, it works best to cut about halfway to the V. If you cut all the way down, you begin to get frayed felt. So you'll find your stem and your seed. You'll find your roots, okay? And then you'll find the pieces to your flower, or maybe your leafy greens or your grasses. It depends on which one you selected. This provides the ability to cut, to experience a different texture, 2 different textures, being felt, well 3 technically, being felt, the rubber band, and your stick stem. With the tail end of it, you'll have something that looks like this, like it's a final piece, okay? So what you'll do is you'll have your rubber band, and I went ahead and cut all of the little roots. So you've got like a little skirt, like a little hula skirt, and you're just gonna wrap it around the base of your stick, of your stem, of your stem. And you're gonna get your rubber band, and you're just gonna wrap it around. And that way your roots stay on tight. Thank you guys.
You're welcome.